They sold my late husband's precious watch, but when I tracked the buyer, I discovered a secret that changed everything. Before you watch this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell me, where are you watching this video from? My name is Eleanor. I'm 67 years old, and for 35 of those years, I was married to the kindest man I've ever known, George. He wasn't rich or famous, but he had something better: integrity, loyalty, and a way of making everyone feel safe. When he passed away 2 years ago, he left me with memories, a quiet house, and one precious thing I couldn't let go of: his old wristwatch. It wasn't just any watch. It was a vintage Omega, gold-plated, slightly scratched, but full of history. George wore it on every anniversary, every family gathering, and even the day our son Michael was born. That watch was a part of him, like an extension of his heartbeat. I kept it in a small velvet box beside my bed. Sometimes when nights got too quiet, I'd take it out, wind it gently, and listen to its steady ticking. It made me feel like he was still with me. But one afternoon, that sound disappeared. Not because the watch stopped ticking, but because it was gone. Before you watch this video, please like, subscribe, and tell me, where are you watching this from? Because what I discovered next shattered everything I believed about love, family, and loyalty. It was a Friday morning when I realized the watch was missing. I had just finished my coffee and went to dust the nightstand where the box usually sat. But the box wasn't there. My heart skipped. I checked the drawers, the closet, under the bed. Nothing. For a second, I told myself I must have moved it while cleaning. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. I rushed to the living room, calling out, "Michael, did you see your father's watch anywhere?" My son was visiting for the weekend with his wife, Tessa. They were sitting on the couch, surrounded by boxes. "What's wrong, Mom?" Michael asked, his tone casual. "The watch," I said, breathless. "Your father's watch. It's gone." Tessa exchanged a quick glance with him, one I didn't miss. "Oh, that old thing," she said, forcing a laugh. "We sold it at the garage sale this morning. It didn't even work, right?" My world froze. "You... what?" "Mom, we thought you didn't care about that stuff anymore," Michael said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You said you wanted to declutter. It's just a watch." "That watch," I said slowly, my voice trembling, "was your father's wedding gift to me. It's worth more than money. How could you—" "Mom," Tessa interrupted, rolling her eyes, "it's just old junk. The guy paid $50. You should thank us for clearing space." The air felt thick, heavy. My own son, the boy his father adored, had sold the last piece of him I had left. I turned away before they could see me cry. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, the streetlight painting long shadows on the floor. $50. That's what my husband's memory was worth to them? I tried to let it go, but something gnawed at me. Who would buy an old gold Omega for $50? Anyone who knew watches would recognize its value immediately. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a random buyer. I grabbed my laptop and opened the local garage sale group online. People often posted about what they bought. I scrolled for hours until I saw a post. "Scored a vintage Omega today. Seller didn't know what they had." My heart pounded. The photo attached was unmistakable: George's watch. The caption mentioned a name: Arthur M. That name? It sent a chill down my spine. Arthur Mason, George's old business partner from 20 years ago, the same man who disappeared after their company went bankrupt. George rarely spoke about him, except to say he was better left forgotten. But why would Arthur buy his watch now, decades later? I felt a storm rising in my chest. This wasn't a coincidence. Something was wrong, and I had to find out what. That night, I sat in the glow of my laptop, Arthur Mason's name staring back at me like a ghost from the past. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling slightly. I hadn't heard that name in decades, but it brought back whispers of old memories. George's sudden stress, the arguments late at night, the financial collapse that almost cost us our home. I thought Arthur had vanished after that. George had told me he moved overseas, somewhere in Europe. So why was he back now? And why would he buy that watch? I couldn't sleep until I found out. The next morning, I called the number listed on Arthur's garage sale post. My voice was steady at first. "Hello, Arthur? This is Eleanor, George's wife." There was silence on the other end, then a low inhale. "Eleanor," he said slowly, "it's been a long time." His tone wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile either. "I believe you have something that belongs to me," I said, keeping my composure. "A gold Omega watch." He hesitated. "I didn't know it was yours when I bought it. I'm sorry for how it got to me. Maybe we can talk about it in person?" Something in his voice made me pause. There was guilt. Regret, maybe. "Where?" I asked. "There's a cafe on Maple Street," he said. "Tomorrow at noon." When I hung up, my heart was racing. Why would he want to meet? Why not just return the watch? The next day, I dressed carefully, as if I were meeting George himself. The cafe was small, quiet, with the smell of coffee and rain hanging in the air. Arthur was already there when I arrived. He looked older, of course, gray hair, deep lines on his face, but his eyes were the same, sharp and calculating. He stood up when he saw me. "Eleanor," he said, giving a faint smile, "you look exactly as I remember." "I can't say the same," I replied softly, sitting across from him. He chuckled, but his eyes dropped to the watch on the table between us. It was shining faintly under the light, polished, perfect. The same one George used to wear every day. "I'm guessing you want this back," he said, resting a hand near it. "But before I return it, you deserve to know why I bought it." My stomach tightened. "Go on." He leaned back, taking a deep breath. "George and I built our company together, you know that. But before things went bad, there was something he didn't tell you. Something about that watch." My chest felt tight. "What do you mean?" Arthur hesitated. "That watch wasn't just a keepsake. It was a code. A key, really. George had it modified years ago. Inside the back panel, there's a tiny microchip that holds encrypted files, business records, account details, things that shouldn't exist anymore." I blinked, stunned. "What kind of files?" "Evidence," Arthur said quietly. "Proof that our third partner stole from the company. Millions. George never wanted to expose him because it would destroy families, yours included. He kept it secret, thinking he could fix things quietly. But when I saw that watch online, I realized someone else might discover it first." My hands trembled. I stared at the watch as if it were something alive. "So you're telling me George was protecting everyone all along?" Arthur nodded slowly. "He was a better man than I was. I left when things got bad. He stayed and took the blame." My throat felt dry. All these years, I had believed George's silence meant guilt, that he'd lost control of the company. But now I saw it differently. He had sacrificed his name to protect others. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. Arthur's voice softened. "Because you deserve the truth, and because someone else might be looking for that watch too. You need to be careful, Eleanor." Before I could respond, he slid the watch across the table toward me. "Take it," he said, "but don't open it yourself. Let someone you trust handle it." I picked it up carefully, my fingers brushing the cool gold surface. It felt heavier than I remembered, as if it carried the weight of all the secrets it contained. "Thank you," I whispered. He gave a small nod, stood up, and left. I watched him walk into the rain, disappearing down the street. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the watch in front of me. George's voice echoed in my memory, the way he'd tell me, "Some things are better left unsaid." Maybe he was protecting me, even now. But curiosity won. I needed to know what was inside that watch. That night, I couldn't sleep. The gold watch sat on the table, like it was staring back at me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw George's face. Calm, gentle, the way he used to smile when he caught me overthinking. But now, that smile hid a lifetime of secrets. Around 2 a.m., I finally gave up trying to rest. I opened my laptop, slit the tiny chip into an old adapter George had once used for his work, and waited. The screen flickered, and for a second, I thought it wouldn't work, until a folder appeared. It was labeled with a single word: legacy. My breath caught in my throat. My fingers trembled as I clicked it open. Inside were hundreds of documents, contracts, offshore bank statements, even confidential memos. But what froze me wasn't the money. It was the names. One of them was my son's name, Daniel. I stared, my mind going blank. The documents were signed years after George's death. How could Daniel's name be tied to these? My hands shook as I opened one of the files. It detailed transactions that looked suspicious. Payments moved from Arthur's old company accounts to one under Daniel's name. The amounts were huge, and the dates lined up with when Daniel had started his first business. My heart dropped. "No," I whispered. "He wouldn't." But the evidence was right there. I felt my stomach twist in disbelief. The watch, the chip, Arthur's warning. It all made sense now. Someone was still using George's name and assets. And that someone was my own son. The room suddenly felt too small. I grabbed my coat, shoved the watch into my pocket, and stepped outside into the cold night air. The rain had stopped, but the streets glistened under the streetlights. I didn't even realize I was walking toward Daniel's house until I saw the familiar porch lights glowing. It was nearly 3 a.m., but I didn't care. I rang the doorbell once, twice, and on the third ring, the door opened. Daniel stood there, half awake, eyes wide when he saw me. "Mom? What on earth? We need to talk," I said, pushing past him into the house. He followed, confused. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you here at this hour?" I turned to face him, my voice trembling. "Tell me the truth, Daniel. Where did you get the money to start your company?" He froze. "What? Why are you asking me that?" "Don't lie to me," I said sharply. "I found something. Your father's watch? It wasn't just a watch. There was a chip inside with financial records. Your name is on them." He went pale. "Mom, you don't understand." "Then make me understand," I snapped, slamming the watch down on the table. "Did you steal from your father's legacy? Did you use his name?" He rubbed his forehead, pacing. "I didn't steal, Mom. I just borrowed. The money was sitting in dormant accounts for years. No one claimed it. I figured Dad would have wanted it used for something good." "Something good?" I repeated bitterly. "You built your business with stolen funds, Daniel. You used his memory for profit." He stopped pacing, his voice breaking. "You think I wanted this? I was drowning, Mom. After Dad died, you shut down, and Arthur refused to help. I had nothing. That money was the only thing keeping me alive." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. The pain in his voice reminded me of how lost we both had been after George's death. But this wasn't the way. "You could have come to me," I said softly. "We would have figured it out together." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "You wouldn't have understood. You were so busy grieving him, you didn't see how much I missed him too." My heart broke. I reached out and touched his arm. He was protecting us even when we didn't know it. And now you've undone everything he sacrificed for. He sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You did, I whispered, but it's not too late to make it right. He looked up, eyes red. How? By coming clean, I said firmly, by owning what you did before someone else does. Arthur told me others might be looking for that watch. If they find out what's on that chip, it won't just ruin your business, it'll destroy your father's name all over again. He nodded slowly, realization sinking in. What do we do now? We go to the authorities, I said, together. His expression was a mix of fear and relief. They'll arrest me, Mom. Maybe, but maybe they'll also see your honesty. The next morning, we met with Arthur at the same cafe. Daniel looked fragile, smaller somehow, as he sat across from the man who'd once been his father's closest friend. Arthur listened quietly as Daniel explained everything, the withdrawals, the desperate choices, the guilt. When he finished, Arthur sighed deeply. You're lucky your mother found out before the others did, he said. The people who wanted that chip weren't going to knock on your door for a confession. They would have taken everything. Daniel's eyes widened. What do you mean? George's third partner, the one who stole the money, his son is still out there, and he's been searching for proof of what his father did. If he'd found this first, you'd be his scapegoat. A chill ran down my spine. So it's not over, I said quietly. Not yet, Arthur nodded. But it can be if we play this right. He glanced at Daniel. You tell your story first. You expose what your father protected before anyone else twisted. I looked at my son, who sat there trembling but resolute. He'd be proud of you for doing the right thing, I whispered. Daniel smiled weakly. I hope so. When we left the cafe, the sun was breaking through the clouds for the first time in days. I held the watch in my hand, its golden surface warm under the light. I realized then that George's legacy wasn't just hidden in files or money. It was in the choices we made when no one was watching. And for the first time in years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, our family could still make him proud. The following week was a blur of meetings, phone calls, and documents. Daniel and I worked together, Arthur guiding us through the maze of George's old accounts and files. Every page we opened, every transaction we examined, revealed a deeper layer of deception, sacrifice, and loyalty that George had hidden to protect us. It wasn't just money. It was evidence of the lengths he went to shield his family from ruin. As we traced the funds, one thing became painfully clear. George's third partner, Robert Stanton, had left a trail that could have destroyed us all. He had siphoned millions over the years, yet George had absorbed the blame silently, keeping his family's name untarnished. Arthur explained that Robert's son, Victor, had been searching for that watch for years. He knew it contains the microchip with the documents proving his father's theft. If Victor finds this before Daniel confesses, Arthur warned, he'll use it to manipulate and possibly ruin him. My heart raced. The danger wasn't over. Even now, we needed to act fast. Daniel swallowed hard, taking in the weight of his father's silent battle and the responsibility now on his shoulders. That night, I sat alone with the watch once more. I turned it over in my hands, the tiny chip glinting faintly under the lamp. I thought about George, his quiet courage, the way he always put others before himself, and the lessons he never had to speak aloud. Tears rolled down my cheeks, and I whispered, I understand now, George. I understand everything. The next morning, Daniel and I went to the authorities together. We handed over the watch, the microchip, and every document Arthur had helped us gather. It was terrifying, exposing his family and George's secrets, but I knew it was the right thing to do. We told the full story of the theft, of George's sacrifice, and of Daniel's involvement, emphasizing his honesty and willingness to make amends. The investigators listened carefully, asking questions, poring over the records. They were shocked by the depth of the deception and the cleverness of George's protection. By noon, they assured us that the Stanton family would face consequences, and Daniel's cooperation would be taken into account in their investigation. Relief washed over me, though it was tinged with sadness. Over the next few days, life slowly returned to a fragile normal. Daniel's business, though shaken, was still standing. Arthur visited, offering advice and closure. "Your father trusted me with a lot," he said quietly, "but he also trusted you to carry it forward. Don't let that go." Daniel nodded solemnly. "I won't," he promised. And for the first time since George's passing, I felt the weight of grief lighten slightly, replaced with pride and hope. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but at least we had the truth, and with it, the chance to honor George's memory properly. One evening, I placed the Omega watch back in its velvet box. I touched the gold, imagining George's hand over mine, feeling the steady heartbeat of time and love that never really left. I realized that legacy wasn't just about wealth or material things. It was about integrity, courage, and the quiet choices we make to protect the ones we love. My son had learned it the hard way, but he had learned, and so had I. That night, Daniel came to me with a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from him. "Mom, thank you for believing in me, even when I made mistakes. I'll make sure Dad's name lives on the way he wanted." I smiled through my tears, holding the note close. George's spirit was with us, guiding us still as we faced the future with truth, love, and the strength that comes from family. By the time the investigation concluded, the Stanton family was held accountable and Daniel had rebuilt his business honestly, without any shadows from the past. The neighborhood whispered about the story of the widow, her son, and the lost Omega watch that revealed decades of secrets. People came to know not just about the money or the theft, but about George's unwavering moral compass and the courage of a family who chose to do the right thing, even when it hurt. That watch, now safely locked away, had done more than measure time. It had measured sacrifice, integrity, and the enduring love of a man who gave everything to protect the ones he loved. And as I watched Daniel mentoring his employees, teaching them ethics and respect, I knew George would have been proud, not just of me, not just of Daniel, but of the life we were rebuilding in his honor,